Let's go.
Well, I mean, that felt like we watched that USA game. We were on some hallucinogenics. That was the most bizarre thing. 45 minutes, U.S. are trailing Honduras, and hard to imagine if that score didn't change if Greg Berhalter survives. I know the U.S. would give him the benefit of the doubt because of what happened in the summer, but you read the tea leaves, you look at what's being said, and how important it is if they finish with 2 points after 3 games. I feel pretty confident the U.S. make a change. I feel pretty confident because you can't wait another month. You can't, because if they lose this game, if things just completely unravel, you feel like this team is lost. We really were at that point. I think the lines are very fine here. If the U.S. end up tying 1-1 after the Anthony Robinson goal, he's probably all right. They figured it out. And now, I mean, there's obviously a lot of criticism coming his way, but he's sleeping pretty good tonight, Greg Berhalter, somewhere down there in Honduras. I imagine they would probably get the charter and come back here and enjoy it and then disperse back to their clubs. But an unbelievable evening as the United States breathed life into their World Cup campaign. Now, after 3 games, when we were about to just take this program apart, all of a sudden, thanks to scoring 4 goals, they are 3rd in qualifying, which means they're going to the World Cup. Long way to go. And they're doing well with goal differential. So they also have 3 points between them and 5th. 4th place goes to the playoffs. So they have not only got a spot in the World Cup as it stands, but they have some breathing room. And if they can get 6 points, 2 wins at least in the next run of games, they're going to be sitting very, very pretty. They got a lot of draws over this weekend. Panama and Mexico ended up tied. The game between Costa Rica and Jamaica. Ties are good for the U.S., especially when you win, because you separate from the pack. There haven't been a lot of wins. Canada won their game. You didn't want Canada to get away. Well, you're right with them at 5 points. So Mexico's won 2 games. Canada's won a game. USA's won a game. Panama's won a game. And that's it. Those are the wins. Everything else has been tied. Lots of ties. So you get a couple wins here. You're separating from the pack. This is the soccer OG. Woo! I mean, I really feel out of body after watching that game. It's like, did it happen? I don't know. Did someone put something in my seltzer water? I was looking at the liquor cabinet during that game when they're down 1-0. I'm like, this may require a little greasing up of the joints. I stayed away so I could see what happened here. So we'll talk about the first half. And again, these 45 minutes were so massive because it's completely changed the perception. I shouldn't say completely. People, and look, Greg Berhalter deserves a lot of criticism for how he came out in this game. They looked completely lost. Bad touches, giveaways, could have allowed more than 1 goal. Honduras were going at the U.S. like the United States were Vauxhall Motors in the second round of the FA Cup, just breathing down their neck. As if the coach said, this team is damaged goods, we can beat them. Normally you don't see Honduras that aggressive in games like this, but this was a different outlook, and it paid off. They got the goal, and Brian Moya scoring it, and everyone froze. And you're wondering what has to happen at the half. Can this be salvaged? Is Honduras going to run away with it? All of those thoughts came into at least my mind. It was a tactical mistake. We saw Tyler Adams as a right wing back. That didn't work. James Sands as a holding midfielder. That didn't work. No one took a bigger hit in this game, and really at the end of the last game versus Canada, than John Brooks. You wonder if he is a lockdown starter anymore? I don't know. It was pretty shaky. He was substituted. So let's go into the starting 11. It was a 4-3-3. Matt Turner, George Bello, Tyler Adams were your wingbacks. Mark McKenzie, John Brooks, Miles Robinson, the back 3. James Sands and Kellen Acosta in that holding midfield role with the wingbacks alongside them. and then Christian Pulisic, Josh Sargent, Ricardo Pepi in the front of the attack. Sargent playing as a winger. That didn't work either. Third game here in these qualifiers. This is where the U.S. was supposed to get a major push because of their depth. Now, their depth was slammed because of, obviously, the Weston McKennie. I didn't want to talk too much about it. It's highly disappointing, but I've seen some outrageous things comparing it to some of the awful things players have done in camp. As far as I know, he broke it. He's just being stupid. He didn't put anyone else in harm's way. His father tweeted that he could have tattletaled on a couple players that might have been with him. And I don't doubt it, because players have been leaving camp to wet their whistle, or whatever you want to call it, since the game has started, since players have left on international duty. That is not a crime in normal World Cup cycles. The problem is we're in the midst of COVID, and he could bring COVID into the camp and just dismantle everything that the U.S. is doing. And for that, he should be sent home as he was. Should he be brought back? Yes. You see what he does after that. I'm not including the Juventus situation from before. This, to me, stands alone, but he has got to wise up. You also had the injuries to Gio Reyna. You had the injury to Serginho Dest. You had Zach Steffen with COVID. So your depth really riddled in this game. But I'm okay with West. I will welcome Weston McKennie back. And I saw these people say, throw the book at him, throw him out of the program. Get the heck out of here. I think Landon Donovan even said something to that effect. Come on. That ain't right. So let's get past the first 45 minutes, because it was brutal. And I was laughing at my tweets from the first 45 because I was jumping off the Titanic. I really was. I was like, see you later, I'm moving to Canada. But second half, substitutes. So we can give criticism to Greg Berhalter for the starting 11, and we should. But you've got to give him as much credit for the substitutes. And I know people will say, why didn't the substitutes start? I can't answer that question. I think I would have done it pretty differently. I'm glad he put Pepi in there. I think the back three made sense. We asked for it. Maybe not Tyler Adams at right back, and maybe Josh Sargent not at right wing. I wouldn't have done that. You know, hindsight's 2020, but I would not have put those guys in those positions. Second half starts, Sebastian Lletget for John Brooks, Brendan Aronson for Josh Sargent, and Anthony Robinson also came in. Later on, Christian Roldan came in for Christian Pulisic. So we'll get to Pulisic in a moment, because this is a troubling issue that we've talked about on the Soccer OG in the past. By the way, this is the Soccer OG. That's right. Check out, please, the Soccer OG podcast. We've got to get our numbers up there. So after this, download a podcast. The most recent one is a great time with Andy Goldstein of TalkSport. That's how good it was. I couldn't remember it. But it's hilarious. Check it out, where all podcasts are available. The Soccer OG, the same program you're watching here. And subscribe here. Subscribe. Thank you for all those who have tuned in. We are doing wonderfully. And obviously, it's a product of the U.S. team. But thanks for tuning in and digging what we are doing. So the subs made a huge difference. Anthony Robinson, 49th minute, assisted in the best ball of the day by Sebastian Lletget. Look, we got in shouting matches about Sebastian Lletget. I hope all those people who are critical, and they're not gonna succumb here, but you see why he's important. It's not where he plays, and I know that people hold that, but we won't even talk about that. But you need Sebastian Lletget. He calms everything down. He calms that midfield where the passes started to connect. His presence in a couple games made that impression to me. Certainly here, where I thought maybe the man of the match. Maybe the man of the match. In 45 minutes, I think he was involved in 3 of the 4 goals, and then he scored a goal. I think he was involved in all 4 goals. He hit the ball to Yedlin. Yedlin crossed the goal for Pepi, and he was also involved in the Brendan Aronson goal. So Sebastian Lletget, I'm so glad he is here. And I don't want to say I was right, but this is where you have to watch it. You can give me all your tape, but this is where you have to watch it. Sebastian Lletget is worth his weight in gold. Probably should start at least 2 of the next 3 games in October. Matt Turner, big saves as well. Wanted to mention that. the goals started flying in, and they got 4. And that 4th goal moved them in from 4th to 3rd place. So goals do matter. Honduras, Minor Figueroa, who I think is 38 years old, was the best player in the first half. Andy Najar was the best player for them over 2 halves. But you could see it. You could see the opportunity open up. Honduras just ran out of steam. And that's always going to be a benefit for the U.S. So we talked about the advantage of having depth. So even though the U.S.'s depth was taking a hit with all those players that were missing, they still had more than Honduras. And it shone through. And Honduras were so aggressive at the beginning, they were completely out of gas, and the U.S. just took over. Wide open spaces. You could see the game winner was coming, and you could see a 3rd goal was coming. I didn't see the 4th goal, but I'm glad it came too. So Honduras, this is a way to beat teams. But I think one thing you will see is when you go down to Central America from this point forward, teams are going to be more timid playing the U.S. because they're going to look at this as an example. Honduras and Canada came out and played the U.S. and said, we can beat them. That's going to change because no one had a game like this. Nobody scored 4 goals in a game. Nobody. This is the best offensive performance by a long shot. Defensively solid. Matt Turner, he's not going to leave the number 1 spot. Miles Robinson's there. Anthony Robinson is now your left back for sure because of the game he had. He was remarkable. Tyler Adams, man, he had a moment where he made this 40-yard sprint, made the tackle, and then 60 seconds later almost scored a goal. He's so good, an absolute professional. And he wasn't terrible at right wing back, but you could see he's so much better in central midfield, and I'm sure he's going to end up there again. Ricardo Pepi. You know, we didn't know we had a striker, but I don't want to be prisoner of the moment, but I've seen him in Major League Soccer, and you're like, this guy's got it. We've given Josh Sargent a ton of opportunities. Jordan Pefok has gotten opportunities. Josh Sargent in particular, who you still need on this team, but the guy who should start at least 2 of the next 3 games in October has to be Ricardo Pepi. And he scored a goal. He was involved in another. Classic number 9, big. He's got to work a little harder in some things, but he provides that presence that we just haven't had in a long time. We were talking about, do we bring back Josie? What are we going to do? This striker situation is bleak. Well, Ricardo Pepi, it's really crazy to put that much pressure on an 18-year-old, but countries all over the world have been doing it since World Cups are being played. Ricardo Pepi is the guy right now. So Berhalter gets great, Pepi was the only non-sub to score for the U.S. So that is where Greg Berhalter needs some credit. He has to do better in October, but he's bought himself some time. And we won't talk about the October games just yet because, well, we have a long time before we get there. Players are going to go back. Christian Pulisic. I got to tell you, I was pretty blown away when you saw he was injured and he knew his team needed him. And he ran out there and he tried to keep going. He tried and he tried. And I know his teammates saw that. And after that moment where he came off, the U.S. really responded. I'm not saying it's because of what they saw, but they see how much it means to him. And that is inspiring. That is where you look at a player and go, wow, look at the lengths he will go. I feel bad for Christian Pulisic, and Chelsea's going to be upset when he goes back. And the big picture here, and we've said it from the beginning with Christian Pulisic, is he's glass. He's made out of glass. And I don't think there's any way he can go. I mean, he played really well in this second half. He was a big part for this U.S. revival. He was right there with that first goal, helping set it up to Leggett, eventually came on to Anthony Robinson. But I don't know how much you can rely on him because of the injuries. He'll come back, and hopefully he can make it. But you have to assume in these big moments, he may not be there, or he probably won't be there. So that's obviously one of maybe the worst thing that you take out of this. The first half performance, the tactics, but everything you've got to wash that away because they got the results. I always said 5 points should have been the target. People were saying 9, that's crazy. 7, fine, but still, 7 is nobody. Who got 7? Mexico? Mexico almost ended up with Mexico were pretty close to ending up with 3 points. They got more problems than the U.S. right now. Mexico they would love to have Ricardo Pepi. And remember, he was a dual national. Mexico's like, oh, that's the one that got away. So the U.S. is on the revival. There's so much, I don't even know where to start or end with this game. It was bonkers. I really feel like we were induced by something, like someone put a roofie in our drinks from what we saw that second half. It's coming off right now. It's wearing off right now, I hope. But the Soccer OG will be back in October to get all over these games. We'll have a lot of good content between now and then. Check out the Soccer OG podcast. Enjoy this game. Wear your colors out tomorrow. Get people excited for the U.S. men's national team, because that was what we all came for.